Hello, little children. This is Mr. Moorhead. I hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great spring break. I tried to do something really exciting over spring break. I normally sit on the left-hand side of my couch, and I decided to switch over to the right-hand side. So that was probably the most exciting thing that I was able to do. I hope yours was just as exciting. Luckily, we get to do new things today. I've had a lot of review. We were required to, but now we get to teach new things. So what we are going to talk about today is an economic term. It's really key in understanding our next period of history. So I am going to share my screen. There we go. And you can see that we are going to talk about economic bubbles. Now, an economic bubble, you know the word economic. This is really the most important letter in economic. Economics are about money. So the official definition is the use or consumption of a group of blah, blah, blah. It's money. It's how does a society make its money? It's how does a business make its money? It's how does a state make its money? How do people make their money? So anything economic related, it's going to be about money. Now the word bubble, that is something that probably sounds weird to you to be mixed together. But I want you to think of bubble gum. If you are blowing a bubble, you're putting air into that bubble and you keep putting it in there and putting it in there, and eventually that bubble is going to pop. So there is something similar that can happen with economics. And in order to be able to understand this story, I can tell you about a small item that formed a bubble. When I was little, this was a popular doll. It's a Cabbage Patch Kid. These dolls, very popular for girls. At Christmas time, people would fight over them in the aisle. And that's not actually our economic bubble because they didn't go up super high in price. A lot of them have maintained a little bit of value. But our economic bubble is actually based around these dolls. When I was in first grade, there was a company that came out with satire of these dolls. Remember satire, just like that Geico commercial that is making fun of the scary movies where people make bad decisions. Remember there's a car running, it's facing away from the horror house that these people were trapped in, and instead of jumping in and driving away, they went over and hid behind the chainsaws. That's satire. That is saying that, hey, these scary movies, people do silly stuff in the movies that normally people wouldn't do. These dolls are going to have satire as well. In first grade, I remember having a whole bunch of kids gathered around the table. I was interested in what they were doing, and I walked back to them, and I thought they had baseball cards, but here's what they had. They had Garbage Pail Kids. Garbage Pail Kids made fun of those Cabbage Patch dolls. So you can see it looks just like them, but this one's head's blowing up. This one is picking his nose. This one has really long underarm hair. This one is a werewolf. So you can see they're all meant to be funny. When I was in first grade, I thought this was the funniest thing on the planet. I remember going home, running off the bus, and begging my dad, can you take me to go buy these? We went to several stores, we ran in, there's an empty box of them. Another store, there's an empty box. Finally, we found a store that had some packs, and my dad bought them for me, and it made my life up to that point. It's the greatest thing to happen to me in the 7 years I had been on the planet Earth. I went in the next day and I showed them to the kids, and I beamed with pride and joy. It was a wonderful thing. Eventually, the school is going to ban these. The school says, hey, some people said they're offensive, but a lot of people, and I can agree with this, said they're a distraction. The kids are stealing them, they're showing people, they're sticking them because they're actually a sticker. in addition to the card. They're sticking them on stuff. So no, you can't bring these to school. And I thought it was neat that these were so popular. It kind of formed a black market. We had a cloakroom that we had to hang our coats in the classroom. It was kind of like a closet. It was just a giant wooden wall that you could walk behind, and we would walk behind it, and the kids would pull out these cards and they would start trading. I remember on the days it was really, really hot, you'd have kids come in and had on like trench coats. They would stand back there and they're like, hey man, what are you doing? Got something you might like? You walk over, they open their coat, and on the inside there's like these Garbage Pail Kids. And they're like, I'll trade you a creepy Carla for an atom bomb. And the teachers would scream, are you back there with those Garbage Pail Kids? And the folks would push their coats down, and everybody push them in their pockets, and they would run away. The teachers treated it almost like folks were dealing drugs or something like that. They're very serious about not having these Garbage Pail Kids at school. Nonetheless, the second series come out, and when we originally bought them, they're about 50 cents, I would guess. When the second series comes out, they're like $1.50. They go up in price and go up in price and go up in price. Now, you have to remember there's something called inflation. Money changes. Money doesn't buy as much as it used to. However, if you look at these in our money, like money today, they get up in price per pack to about our equivalent of $20 a pack. That's about, if we could bring them forward, they ended up being like $20 a pack, and people were buying them up and buying them up and buying them up. And this is going to create a bubble. So let's look at what we need, our ingredients for a bubble. Number one, you got to have rapid growth. Did we have that? Yes. These packs went from about 50 cents to, if we're looking in our money, like $20. Like it's just explosive prices to buy these. And people were still buying them. Is that inflated value? Now, when I say inflated, you think of like a bicycle tire, you inflate it. But what I'm saying here is it really worth that much? Or has the thought of as more than what it's really truly worth? But think about this. Those cards, it's really a thick sheet of paper with a sticker on it. Is that really worth $20? Think about it. If someone makes, I don't know, $10 an hour, like, is it really worth 2 hours of their life to obtain that card? Probably not. Maybe I mistakenly say probably. It's not worth $20 to most people to buy those cards. So the final thing is purchasing with debt. Did somebody borrow money to buy stuff? And in this case, there were people borrowing money, like in the form of credit cards, to gather up these cards because they thought they would be very valuable. So we have our three ingredients. One more time, these things grew in price rapidly. Were they really worth that much? No, they're not. And people were borrowing money to buy them. And when that happens, think back to our bubble gum, the bubble gets larger and larger and larger, and eventually it pops. And when an economic bubble pops, here's what happens. At some point, somebody figures out those things aren't worth $20, and they refuse to pay it. When this bubble bursts and people no longer are willing to buy, they're no longer willing to borrow money, they're no longer willing to purchase and say, hey, these things are super valuable. When they're no longer willing to do that and this bubble bursts, the price of those are going to drop rapidly. So if we're talking about $20 in 2020 money, like it might go to 15, and then a couple months later 10, and then a few months later 5, and then it gets to a point where it's not even worth what you were originally selling it for, back to our 50 cents. And that's what happened with Garbage Pail Kids. It got to the point where they were so valuable, they were put behind the counter. Well, now they're going to be put out in front of the counter in a discount bin. One of those things, like if you see at Dollar General, they're like, please buy this junk. We don't want to throw it away, but somebody please buy it. It's a Christmas ornament from 3 years ago. I'll sell it to you for 10 cents. It's kind of what happens with Garbage Pail Kids. Now, the people that bought it with debt lost the most because technically they had a double loss. So let's say that they borrowed $10 on a credit card to buy the Garbage Pail Kid. And the Garbage Pail Kid's value drops from 10 to 1. They lost $9. That asset is no longer worth 10. But follow me on this, they've still got to pay back the bank 10. So somewhere, somehow, they have to make back an additional $9. So if we look at that, that's kind of a double loss. Those people lost the $9 of value, and they still have to pay back to the $10 that they owe. This is devastating. If you look at this number here, that's devastating for somebody who thought, oh, wait, if I borrow $10, maybe it's worth 20. I sell it, I keep 10, I pay the bank back. Now, that's not even talking about interest. I'm making these numbers very, very simple. So this is going to be a chain reaction. When people stop buying those things, and they did about the time I was in 4th grade, the store that was trying to sell it, it's not worth as much. The collector that owns it, it's not worth as much. The credit card that people are borrowing money to buy it, people are going to stop borrowing money to pay for it, but also maybe some people don't pay the money back because they've lost a lot. So this one little bubble impacted a lot of people. However, Garbage Pail Kids are small. Like, not everybody had them, not everybody used them. There's going to be a period in history where the bubble didn't have Garbage Pail Kids in it. It had almost everything in it. People's jobs, their homes, factories, businesses, railroads, farms, had everything in it. And when that bubble bursts, we have one of the most devastating periods in world history, and that's known as the Depression. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. So let's review and see how we did. An economic bubble, that is when an item, and it doesn't have to be an item, it can be an entire industry like housing or technology. It can be something. It doesn't have to be just a single item. But in our case, we used an item as an example. When an item has rapid growth, people are going nuts to buy it. The value is inflated. If we really sit back and look, are those items worth what we're paying for? If the answer is no, we've got the first two ingredients. And then finally, people are borrowing money because they think these things are just going to grow and grow and grow. They need to accumulate them because it's going to make them a bunch of money. That gives us our recipe for a bubble. And when the bubble bursts, it causes destruction for those people that are holding the assets. In this case, we're talking about Garbage Pail Kids. So here's what I want you to do as your assignment. I want you to look on Google Classroom, and you will see that we will have an assignment on there. You are simply going to write, in your lifetime, can you think of something that formed a bubble? Something that all the kids in the class were rushing out to get. You may have ran to Walmart, they don't have any. You may have ran here, they don't have any. You've gone to Target, they don't have any. You're going to Dollar General, you're going to Ollie's, you're going everywhere, they don't have it. Now you're looking at Facebook. Does somebody have one of these things for me to buy? And people are rushing and rushing and rushing to buy it. But now, whatever this is, like, nobody wants it. It's not worth anything. You could probably go to Dollar Tree and they've got it in the back on discount. Can you think of something that is similar to that? So simply write down what it is. Now, if you're struggling, which you shouldn't, I can think of 2 or 3 items just last year where this happened. So I want you to take a look and see, is there an item that you can think of that has formed a bubble? Now, when you are done with that, just simply write that in there. Finally, what I want you to do is, after you've written that and you've submitted it, make sure that you click that you turned it in, but check back in a day or two because I'm going to comment back to you. I'm going to comment back to everyone. Moving forward, that's what I'm going to do. Now, you should get an update in your mail that, hey, Mr. Moorhead has made a comment and now I can see it. If for some reason you're not getting that update, I know my son doesn't get one, but most of you should. We've talked about it before in class. Just go back in and check, and you'll see where I've made a comment on your work. Again, I hope you are doing well, and I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Tomorrow, we will get to the Great Depression. Thank you guys so much.